Nancy Pelosi, the longtime 39-year congresswoman out of San Francisco, is finally calling it quits. I mean, about time. A lot of things going on here. One, she's totally lost control of her party. It's a total disaster. I want to go to Mike Johnson's reaction on all of this in just a moment, because he's pointing out, yes, in fact, the obvious. They've been taken over by socialists. What do you know? Mamdani. You get the Jasmine Crockett's of the world and the AOCs of the world. Woo! Okay, so she's lost control. She's lost her way. So that's pretty symbolic. The Democratic Party, as you know it, really is no more. And then the other thing you got to wonder is, how nervous is she? How nervous is she, given what we have now learned about J6 and all the things that have come out, including her own admission that she should have done a heck of a lot better. We're going to get to all of that. But again, if you're just joining me right now, Nancy Pelosi, no more. She is retiring. She is leaving politics for good. Although, she just can't help herself. I have a feeling she'll be saying a few snide things along the way whenever she can. I want to go to her announcement. She made the announcement by way of a long-winded video. Oh my goodness, this thing was 6 minutes long. I had to listen to the whole thing, and it had fancy music and the whole 9 yards. Oh, I bet you it was produced by Alexandra Pelosi, her documentary filmmaker daughter, that also produced all the footage that you saw in a loop on CNN. That was like talking about nepotism, for goodness sakes. That was her own daughter that produced all of that. Anyway, my guess is she did this one too. I took the music out and I shortened it considerably, because no need to inflict that kind of pain on you. But here we go.
I say to my colleagues in the House all the time, no matter what title they have bestowed upon me, Speaker, Leader, Whip, there has been no greater honor for me than to stand on the House floor and say, I speak for the people of San Francisco. I have truly loved serving as your voice in Congress, and I've always honored the song of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace, the anthem of our city. That is why I want you, my fellow San Franciscans, to be the first to know. I will not be seeking re-election to Congress. With a grateful heart, I look forward to my final year of service as your proud representative. As we go forward, my message to the city I love is this. San Francisco, know your power. We have made history. We have made progress. We have always led the way. And now we must continue to do so by remaining full participants in our democracy and fighting for the American ideals we hold dear. In doing so, we ensure that our city shines on as a beacon of hope, justice, and peace for the country and for generations to
Has she
come.
been to San Francisco lately?
All, San Francisco is the greatest city on earth.
Really? I mean, maybe it was at one point in time. I'll tell you, I used to live there. I called it Sucks Francisco, because believe me, it sucked. And this was 20 years ago. It's gotten worse. You try taking a little walk down Market Street. You see how you feel. I mean, it's bad, guys. It's bad. And it was bad back in my day. This was back in the day when, we're going back a ways, my friend Kimberly Guilfoyle was actually married to Gavin Newsom. So, and Gavin actually was talking about the need to get the homeless off the street and to stop giving them handouts. That must have been Kimberly's influence. I mean, he was a Democrat even then, but the party has changed dramatically. Now they're like, okay, line up. We'll give you all the free cash and free stuff you want. It is a totally different party. It's a totally different city, and it's not a pretty place to be. But Nancy, she's kind of in her old age. What is she, 85? Going off the deep end just a little bit. This is what she was saying to CNN just the other day as she was telegraphing this move of retirement. She had to kind of get a dig in there against Donald Trump, a pretty big dig. I mean, a logical person wouldn't say such an extraordinary thing, because what you're about to hear is her call him basically the worst person on the planet, like ever. It's like, Nancy, I mean, at some point it becomes hyperbole. You sound like a crazy person. And by the way, this definitely was not her good side. Watch.
Congresswoman Pelosi, are you at all
oopsie daisy. I played you the wrong one, but this is good too. We're going to get to that momentarily, because she's out there trying to say that somehow she wasn't responsible for the alleged cover-up of J6. It's pretty wild, but do I have the soundbite? I want to play you the soundbite. Maybe we don't. Anyway, we played it the other day, so no need to rehash all that. She looked kind of as I said, not herself on CNN and started going on about Donald Trump being the worst person in the world, that he was totally vile, etc. And it's like, Nancy, I mean, you got really bad people out there. And you want to actually say those things about him, the president of the United States of America? I mean, we had to live through the whole illegitimate thing, right, for 4 years when he first won, and now he's just vile. That's her take on it. But I'll tell you, Nancy is potentially in a little bit of trouble, And I say this because we don't fully have a total read. I mean, we have some information that's come out. The Federalist did some good reporting on this. We have Ted Cruz and his commentary, Kash Patel, and what he has said about what went down, including, by the way, the Capitol Hill police chief. We have a lot of information about what was happening on J6. But, you know, if you listen to her version of history, it's something else entirely. Nancy Pelosi could be in a lot of trouble for the alleged cover-up of J6. In other words, I'm getting to the Capitol Hill police, because we've learned that President Trump had asked repeatedly for the Capitol Hill police, and he never got them. And you got to ask yourself, now, why was that? And why was it that the only journalist that happened to be there, and you can't even call her a journalist, again, she was a documentary filmmaker, Alexandra Pelosi, the daughter of course, one Nancy Pelosi. She just happens to be there with mommy on that day, running around with her little video camera, taking all kinds of footage that she eventually, I don't know if she sold to CNN. That would really make it bad, right? And just making a pretty penny off the whole thing too. But she was apparently doing this documentary for HBO. So Nancy knows days in advance that all of this is going to happen. And instead of calling the Capitol Hill police, she calls in Alexandra, her daughter, the documentary filmmaker. So this has come up over and over again. In fact, she was just approached by an independent reporter on the street the other day, and boy, oh boy, did she lose it. I mean, she really lost it. Watch.
Congresswoman Pelosi, are you at all concerned that the new January 6th committee will find you liable for that day?
Okay.
Are you at all concerned about the new January 6th committee finding you liable for that day? Why did you refuse the National Guard on January 6th?
Shut up. I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't send it. Why are you coming here with Republican talking points as if you're a serious journalist?
The American people want to know. We still have questions. Thank you.
Whoa. Okay. So just to back up, it's not really a Republican talking point. It's actually something that has been reported on extensively. In fact, you know, let's go back to, I don't know. Let's go back to some of the tweets of Chief Stephen's son. She said Donald Trump delayed deploying the National Guard on January 6th when our Capitol was under violent attack and lives were at stake. Now he's activating the D.C. Guard to distract from his incompetent mishandling of terrorists, healthcare, education, and immigration, just to name a few. She put that out this summer. He actually cleaned up D.C. pretty darn fast, too. So she's still sticking with this story that somehow he was delaying the National Guard. And what do you know? You get Chief Stephen's son, who was running the joint at the time, saying, ma'am, it is long past time to be honest with the American people. On January 3rd, I requested National Guard assistance, but your sergeant of arms denied it. Under federal law, 2 USC 1970, I was prohibited from calling them in without specific approval. I mean, that same day, he writes, Carol Corbin at the Pentagon office, National Guard support. We learned that, but I was forced to decline because I lacked the legal authority. On January 6th, when the Capitol was under attack, and despite my repeated calls, your Sergeant of Arms, again, denied my urgent request for over 70 agonizing minutes, running it up the chain for your approval. When I needed assistance, it was denied. When it suited you, you ordered fencing topped with a wire and surrounded the Capitol with thousands of armed National Guard troops. So in other words, he's calling her total BS on this. Is it a Republican talking point? For goodness sakes, we've now since learned through some of the reporting by Molly Hemingway over at the Federalist that Liz Cheney and the January 6th committee altogether were suppressing the evidence that would have exonerated Donald Trump because he had been pushing for the National Guard and he couldn't get it because of all these protocols. You know, and Nancy knows it. Nancy knows it. And we know she knows it because you see, some of that footage got leaked. I don't know how Alexandra let this one go by, but some of that footage got leaked rather recently. And we found out that Nancy was in a car after all this was going down and was like furious with staff that they hadn't done more. Listen to this.
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff that should we call the Capitol Police? I mean, the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient resources.
That is not a question of how they have. They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
I take responsibility. I did hear that, right? They should have had more. They should have done more. And yet she has the audacity to just last week tell that reporter, oh, you're nothing but a Republican talking point machine. Let's just get to the truth, for goodness sakes, okay? You didn't do your job. Maybe it was negligence. Maybe you had no idea that this was going to be as bad as it was. Or maybe you seized the opportunity. Again, I go back to the peculiar thing that you just called in one journalist, your daughter. And again, she's not a journalist. Filmmaker, okay? Trust me, there's a difference, okay? There really is. You're a documentary filmmaker. It is completely different than being a journalist. She has a narrative that she's trying to tell, and she uses music and fancy things to try and lead you down this super scary thing. And that's what we saw over and over and over again on CNN, almost as though it was theirs. I mean, at times you would think CNN was there inside the Capitol building, not Alexandra Pelosi, daughter of the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who didn't call in the National Guard when the chain of command said she was supposed to be the one responsible. And this came up in hearings, don't forget. Ted Cruz asking Kash Patel about that day. Let's go to it.
What were you doing on that day?
On that day specifically, responding to preparing to mobilize and deploy the National Guard once we got the lawful request from the local governing authority, which was the mayor of D.C. and the Speaker of the House.
Now, how many days in advance were you working to prepare the Department of Defense to help secure the Capitol on January 6th?
Days in advance, Senator, we were in the Oval Office on an unrelated national security matter with the President of the United States, the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and myself. And the President authorized up to 20,000 plus National Guardsmen and women to secure any security measures necessary related to the Capitol. So we were moving to the fullest extent of the law before the requisite request came from a local governing authority days ahead of time.
And while you were Chief of Staff at DOD, how many times did DOD approach Capitol Police and ask if they needed National Guard assistance?
I believe those letters are well documented, numerous instances, and numerous of those instances, those requests were shut down.
Now, am I correct that the Capitol Sergeant at Arms said assistance was unnecessary?
That's correct, Senator.
Who did the Sergeant at Arms report to?
The Speaker of the House.
That would have been Nancy Pelosi at the time. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator.
And would that also be Chuck Schumer, then the Senate Majority Leader?
The Sergeant at Arms, yes, Senator, reports up there.
Did Mayor Bowser, the Democrat elected mayor in D.C., either request or allow National Guard assistance?
She put in writing on the days leading up to January 6th a declination for National Guard additional support. And that letter is available publicly to the world.
So, just to speak English for folks at home, a declination meant she said no, don't send National Guard. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a simple question, because from the questioning from my Democrat colleagues, they might think otherwise. Do you condemn violence against law enforcement?
All of it.
Folks, I'm not funded by any big corporations or anybody. I am funded by viewers.
I like how Alex gets his little commercial in there. Courtesy to him, because he actually pulled that clip, Alex. But you understand, like, how serious this is, right? Because Nancy Pelosi was willing to just throw the entire blame on one Donald Trump, on the MAGA movement, completely exonerate her own self from any responsibility that she should have had. I remember saying at the time, like, I don't get it. Like, why isn't she calling the Capitol Hill police? Like, why didn't she? Why did they wait so long? Why would you allow this thing to get so out of control? I think it's a fair question. And I think, guys, the answer actually is because they recognized it as an opportunity. And these are opportunists after all. I mean, they're a bunch of politicians, for goodness sakes. And you know what politicians do. They look for their edge. And they felt that they had their edge. So if they could somehow prove that Donald Trump was trying to take over the government, then they could squash the MAGA movement forever. Right? And in fact, isn't that indeed what they tried to do? I mean, when you think of the cancel culture that happened, following that, and everything kept going back to, well, we're doing this because of J6, because we cannot allow anything like this to ever happen again, even though if you really dig down into it, what you might have seen is that there was a failure in part on behalf of the Democrats themselves. And the media was complicit in it. Totally, utterly complicit in all of it. And then what came of this? Think about it. What came of this? What came of this was this whole J6 investigation, this whole J6 committee. They ran with Alexander Pelosi's footage, daughter of Nancy, and they played it in prime time. And they went out and they hired a bunch of ABC News producers, very proud of themselves because they said, oh, this story is so important. We need to make sure it's very, very accessible to the average American public. And they ran with this, and then they initiated a series of investigations, and they had Jack Smith trying to go after the president for all of this.